Hello again. Today's another story time. It's called The Story of Cheryl. Now, this takes place in, we'll just say, back east in a small town. It's during the winter. Now, first of all, Cheryl is an 8-year-old girl. She's half black and half Dominican, so she has lighter skin. She has freckles for some reason, coffee brown eyes, and she's always smiling, always nice. She always likes to have fun, likes to skip, a lot of things that happy little girls do. Now, I was the same age when I met her, and I've always been my same personality. I'm kind of standoffish, but she's one of those infectious personalities that, you can't help but to love her. So for the short time that I knew her, she was my best friend. Every time she saw me, she would say hello, maybe give me a hug, encourage me. Just a delightful little girl. So it's around November, so the snow's not falling yet, but got that snap in the air, all that. You know what I'm saying? The hawk is out. And one day Cheryl is outside around 6 o'clock at night after the sun went down, swinging on the steps with her head down. I went outside because I like to break the rules. I see her there, and she's not smiling. She's not talking. So I walk over to her, I say hello, and she stands up and she walks away. Confuses the hell out of me. So the next day, I see her at school, because of course we go to the same school. That's how you know kids. Kids know kids. And she's not talking to nobody. She's not smiling. Her head's down. This goes on for about 2 weeks. And I'm a kid, and yet someone's telling me I got to get through to her because she's a sweet girl. She's always happy. How come she's not happy? What happened? So finally, after 2 weeks of asking her how she is and saying I hope she feels better, I catch her, and before she walks away, I stand in front of her. I say, please tell me what's wrong. And she looks at me, and her eyes are not full of joy anymore. They're full of sadness. So I say, what's wrong? So she begins to tell me a story about her cousin, who was 17, and how he pushes her, how he calls her names, and sometimes he comes in there and he touches her. So I don't know what touching means, and I'm a little kid. So she describes it, and I just remember feeling like that was wrong. Whatever she was telling me about what he was doing to her just didn't sound right, even as a kid. So I say, well, that's terrible. Tell your mom. She says, okay. And she looks at me in my eyes like I just gave her the best answer ever. Tell your mom. I know she thought about it before, but maybe I was the person that was, I forget what the word is, but, confirming it. It was confirmation for her. So the next day, she don't come to school. 3 days after that, she ain't in school. So when she finally does come back, she's not changed. She's standoffish. I go over to talk to her, and I go to touch her shoulder, and she flinches. That's no good. So when I do finally talk to her, she tells me her mom says that she's lying, and if that happened, then she deserved it. That's what she says. She said that her mom blamed her for it, and that she must have been being a bad girl. And when she told me that, you could tell that her heart was broken because she had no trace of evidence of emotion. No emotion in her voice, no longer happy. It's like her eyes dulled, her freckles dulled. She was not the same little girl anymore. So I didn't know what to say. So she looked me in my eyes and she walked away. Unfortunately, I never saw her again after that because shortly after that conversation, She committed suicide. I don't know the details of it. I'm kind of scared to ask, but that was the word in the street. You know, her mom had a funeral, the whole nine. She was in all black. I hear she was screaming, wanting to jump in the coffin, all this other shit. But yeah, that that little girl killed herself because she had been being sexually abused, and she told the most trusted person in her life, and her mom blamed her for it. So I took offense to that. Now, of course, I can't do nothing to the mom, so I told a few of my friends who had brothers who was about that life, or at least from the outside looking in. I'm a little kid. I never told my mother because my mom's a bit of a G, and I think she would have cut the lady's throat, or at least cursed her out. So one dude in particular, my little homeboy Raphael was a Puerto Rican dude, smooth as fuck, even at 8 years old. He had a homeboy who really was about that life, and he was 22 years old. So Rafi comes around with his cousin, and he starts asking me questions. I start telling him everything I know. He said, okay, bet. So it was him and two younger dudes, maybe in their teens, who went to go see about this 17-year-old dude who touched my friend Cheryl. We'll call him Terrence. That's not his real name, but we'll call him Terrence. So, as the story goes, one day, after being accused, because, word got out that he had done something to the little girl, after being accused, he was trying to lay low, but one day he came out of hiding. I don't know where he was at. Maybe he was at the park or something, but this is how it goes in my mind. He was at the park. It was snowing. Very cold December or January day. And of course, the sun had gone down. So he's at the park and he's chilling, probably not a care in the world. And Rafi's cousin walks up. He said, "What's going on, bro?" So as he's talking to him, his two homeboys creep up. And a couple kids just, watching, little kids. So it's three. So as Rafi's cousin starts to pretty much interrogate him, the 7-year-old kid, this Terrence, says, hey, that's my fucking business, the bitch killed herself. That's what he says. So Rafi's cousin dives on him, punches him in his shit, fires on him, bow, right in his fucking mouth. You can hear the crack very crisply in that winter air. So he goes down. And I'm sorry, if you've ever been jumped before, you should expect this, but they stomped him. Rafi's cousin, two other youngsters, maybe 16, 17, and those two little boys was watching. They stomped him to fucking death. Right there in the park, right there in the snow. Because not only had he ruined a child's life, accelerated her sexuality, which you ain't supposed to do to a child, not only had he said nothing after this said child had killed herself, he was defiant, even arrogant, when he was caught. So those 4 people stomped his ass to death. As the story goes, there was burgundy on Timberlands. Yeah. Timberland stained with blood. Because unfortunately, some people will not be reformed. Some people don't respect a soft voice or empathy. All some people respect is violence. It's like Medea say, some niggas don't understand nothing but the pistol. So, even though I'm sad that this 17-year-old lost his life, and I'm sure his mama cried and his brother cried and all these other people cried, he chose his fate. The many times that he decided to abuse that little girl and he said, I'll keep doing it, he chose his fate. His karma finally caught up to his ass. And now he's resting in hell. So, there are consequences to your actions, and you never know who's going to give it to you. This is just one of the many stories I have about this occurring. Now, the people who did it, I couldn't tell you how they feel about it. I'm sure some are saddened by it. It maybe torture them. But I bet you some of those people who did that, they don't feel nothing bad at all. They feel like that motherfucker had it coming. Now you can agree or disagree with me, and I know thou shalt not kill as said by the 10 Commandments, but it also says an eye for an eye in that bitch. So please choose wisely in the things that you do in this life, because I truly believe it would all come back to you. All right then.